Hang on. Here we go. Okay. We are live. I'm just going to give a few people a chance to join here and get my camera angled right. Grab some water. And then we will get started. Okay, welcome everyone. So this is my Ask Me Anything session. I'm Shellye Archambeau, and I do these sessions once a month. And my purpose for doing these sessions is to try to provide, frankly, access, answer questions, give perspective at scale. Because with the calendar I keep, I don't have time to do it one-on-one. And so this is my way of trying to continue to share advice, wisdom, knowledge, anything that will help people to be able to live the life they want. So I did receive some questions in advance, and I will indeed go through those questions. And as you join, if you have questions that you want to ask, please just put them in the chat. Happy to do these things live. And as you can see, I'm wearing my t-shirt. Let me stand up, see? Unapologetically Ambitious. You can get yours too. As a matter of fact, 60% of the proceeds from selling the t-shirts actually go to getting books in the hands of students from challenged backgrounds, students from HBCUs. We've been able to donate thousands of books so far and hope to be able to continue that. So at any rate, feel free. Just go to my website, shellye.com, where there's information on both the book as well as t-shirts, etc. All right, so let's jump into it. First question I've got. I'm in the process of applying to a new position, and I've recently spoken to the individual who has vacated the role that I'm applying to. Is there an effective way to mention that I've spoken to this person in my application materials or in my interview? Or is that not something that I should mention? Okay, great question. And as with any question, there's a big, it depends. So if the person is still working for the company, so the person you've talked to is no longer in the job, you said vacated, which is a strange verb. So I don't know if they were promoted out of the job, if they got a new assignment, if they're still with the company, or if they left the company. If they left the company, I wouldn't mention it because you have no idea what the circumstance was in which they left the company. And you don't want that to reflect, frankly, on you if it was negative. If they're still with the company and it was a promotion, definitely you can mention that you've chatted with them. It shows the fact that you have been very interested in the job and trying to learn more about it. So I think that's fine. And if they're still at the company, but it wasn't a promotion and they're doing something else, again, it depends. If they've been there a long time, I think it's fine to say something. If they haven't been there for a long time, then again, you don't know how their reputation is, etc. So maybe not. So anyway, that would be my perspective on this. Okay, let's go back to the next question. One of my goals is to serve on a small for-profit board as a paid board director. I'm a senior director, but haven't held an S or a C-suite position. What are my chances, and what advice do you have on how to achieve that? So board seats are very competitive, and put yourself in the seat of the CEO and other board members. They want people around the room that they can learn from, that can bring value to the company through their experience, right? Relationships, access, etc. They want people that they feel add specific skills and perspective that they need as they build out the board. So here's the challenge. You're competing for those roles. So when you've actually not achieved a certain level, it makes it difficult for you to compete against others who have achieved that level. So when I look at a senior director, what I would tell you is if that is the highest level that you achieve, that's going to be challenging. And it's going to be challenging because as a CEO and other board members, if they want someone who is knowledgeable, let me see if you tell what area, you don't. But let's say your area of expertise is, I'll make it up, engineering. Then if they're also interviewing people that have been vice presidents or senior vice presidents or EVPs, people who have actually built out an engineering firm, et cetera, they're probably going to go with that person before they go with you just because of depth of skill. So you have to realize you're competing for these roles, and they want people around the table that can help them do their job better. So my biggest advice is continue to strive to grow in your career and work towards getting to that C-suite or direct report to C-suite. That will then give you better odds of being able to actually compete for a board seat and contribute. What suggestions do I have? It's building out your network. So a lot of, especially small boards, a lot of those boards are built based upon who the investors know, who the current board members know, who senior executives might know, et cetera. But they tend to be built when they're small, actually coming from networks. So to help improve your odds, you have to figure out how you extend and expand your overall network so that you can be thought of. So again, it ties. The other thing to do is whatever area is your skill, whether that's engineering, it's marketing, it's sales, go to market, whatever it happens to be, you want to create a brand and awareness of yourself, because that's the other thing looking for. Am I bringing on somebody on board who others will say, oh, that's a great addition to the board? So you can improve your overall brand and your awareness by speaking at conferences, by writing articles for published magazines or outlets, right? All of those things can help build your awareness and your credibility in the space in which you're in. Getting on a board and participating in that kind of a role, well, looking for that is very much like looking for any job. Look at the set of skills that are required, what people are looking for, and then build a plan to figure out how you go get those so that you can compete better when it's time. Next one. My career ambition is to one day be a CEO and lead a major corporation. I have a law degree, 8 years of working experience, but no MBA. I'm considering to pursue my MBA part-time to further boost my career. Is that a step I should take? I read your book and I'm applying exactly what you did. Ask what you want and tell people. However, I'm also afraid that people may perceive that I am too ambitious and only think about money as goals in life, which is definitely not true. What would be your advice? Well, just a quick aside, people will only think that you only care about money if that's what you're talking about. So biggest advice on not being pigeonholed about being focused on money only and being a mercenary is don't make that the topic that you constantly talk about. With regards to building out your career and going from a lawyer into business, you say 8 years of experience, but I can't tell if that is experience in the law or if it's actually business experience. If it's experience leveraging your law degree, meaning serving in a legal capacity or in a legal related role, then an MBA can help to enable you when you finish your MBA to actually switch right onto the business side. If you've been able to go straight to the business side, then you may not, frankly, need your MBA. It could still be helpful, depends what industry you're in. Certain industries like financial services really value MBAs so that, again, you're competing. You might be in another industry like energy or packaged goods. And, who knows, they may or may not. So look at your industry, look at the people that are holding the jobs that you want. Do they have advanced degrees or do they not? Do you need to switch from being in one segment of the business area, law, into business? You need to switch. Getting a degree can absolutely help you make that overall transition. So that's the way to weigh it. Figure out what it is that you're trying to do. You said you want to become a CEO. So look at the industries in which you've been building out your career. Do most CEOs have MBAs? And figure out how to leverage the knowledge that you gain by doing the research into building your overall plan. That's really the key. I always start with, what's the goal? What am I trying to achieve? Then I ask myself, what has to be true to achieve it? Which is basically the research, right? I want to be CEO. Okay, CEO, what industry? Who are the CEOs in that industry? What are their backgrounds? What kind of experience? What kind of degrees do they have? And now how do I position myself to build that kind of background and reputation? And then the next question I ask is, how do I make it true? And in that response, how do I make it true? You build out your plan to get the degree you need and or the experience, etc. Hold on. Sorry. Allergies are acting up. Okay. Let's see. The other thing is achieving your goal, meaning I want to be CEO, but I want people to think I'm too ambitious. Well, first of all, it's fine to be ambitious. That's why I titled my book Unapologetically Ambitious. Now, being ambitious doesn't mean being in your face, right? It's one thing to walk in and say, okay, I plan to be CEO one day, everybody get in line. No, it's another thing to tell people what you aspire to do. One day I want to run a company, right? One day I want to run a business. And then ask for their help. What advice might you have for me on the kinds of skills, experience, whatever, right, that might be helpful? By approaching it that way, it gives you the chance to ask for help, which is not an in-your-face activity at all. And it gives people a chance to help you. That's what I mean when I say tell people what you want. And then when they offer to help back, make sure you can be specific about what it is you're trying to do. So I've found that by asking for help, people typically try. Most people want to be helpful if they like you, if they respect your approach and your attitude. So all of those things are important and how you approach this. And that's really what I talk about in my book as well. It really is about how you ask, how you tell, right? Because in that, people get a chance to figure out who you are. So that's been my approach. I ask for people's advice. I ask for their help. And in doing that, I tend to build supporters. By the way, if questions come up, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm monitoring it over here. Okay. Such a nuisance. Okay. I'm a senior executive at a firm I've been with for 21 years. The company recently went through a reorg with many senior execs retiring and have been replaced by young white males. I have kept myself relevant, but it's evident management doesn't want me around. I'm no longer invited into senior leadership meetings. I hear about company initiatives after the fact. I'm 56 years old and feel I have a fair amount of runway ahead of me, and I'm certain I can add value. Unfortunately, the company no longer thinks so. Should I approach them and negotiate an exit or stick it out? Neither. So let me explain. First, you've been there for 21 years. You've been obviously contributing and doing well. So it's because you're a senior executive. So now's the time to have the conversation with your boss or with the CEO. I don't know the structure, but whatever the structure is, your boss or your boss's boss, and both, to say, okay, we've gone through a lot of changes as a company. I've done X, Y, and Z. I'm feeling marginalized. Tell them, right? Just say, frankly, I'm feeling marginalized and that I'm not in a position to be able to contribute to the levels that I was before. So so you say that to say, hey, I have a problem. I'm not able to contribute to the levels, right? And then have the conversation. Here's the hard ask. The hard ask is, how do you see my future here? Ask the question. Don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Sometimes, especially during the course of a lot of change and reorg, it's not that people think that you're not valuable anymore. Sometimes you get lost in that shuffle and there hasn't been the focus. And when you raise the question to say, hey, wait, I'm still here and I'm still able, so tell me what you think, it gives them the chance to say, oh, gosh, right, this was a miss. Yes, you're still valuable. Yes, we want you, blah, blah, blah. Or you might get the hard answer, which is, well, in all honesty, the skills that you have are not the ones that we need anymore. But either way, at least you have clarity. Right now, you have no clarity. So that's why I say it's neither. No, don't negotiate an exit package. Have the conversation first. Because you've built now a reputation, you've built knowledge, etc. Don't just assume. Make sure you know what the answer is. And if they come back and tell you that, no, your skills aren't as valuable and that's why you're not, well, fine. Then you can talk about an exit package. But even then, I would say hold off. I tell people all the time, don't run from a problem. Run to an opportunity. And what I mean by that is don't leave before you know what you're going to do. It's much easier to find a job when you have a job. So if you have the conversation and it's clear after the conversations that no, you really don't have a future there to be able to grow, you might be fine where you are, but that's all that they expect from you. Fine. Say, okay, I understand. Thank you. Keep executing. But at the same time, start looking for the next job. So now look at, all right, what do I want to achieve? You said you feel you have a lot of runway left. Fine. What's your goal? What is it that you want to achieve with this runway? And then start looking for an opportunity that will put you in a better position to do that. And interview and get a job and then leave your job. So don't run from opportunities. Don't run from problems, rather. Run to opportunities. Always clarify. Don't make assumptions on how you think people are feeling about you based on how they're treating you. Because sometimes, honestly, it's a miss. So give the benefit of the doubt. Ask the question. It's a hard question. But many times, you have 50-50 chance of getting the answer of, oh, no, we definitely want you. We definitely see a future for you to be able to rise within this company, right? And a 50% chance that, no, we don't. But now you know, and you can make decisions based on that. Next one, how to develop confidence in a male-dominated workplace. How to overcome imposter syndrome. Well, first step, read the book. I've suffered from imposter syndrome my entire life. And I talk about it all the way through the book. So I don't know how to overcome it because I still have it. I still have imposter syndrome from time to time, which is ludicrous, but it's true. So what I do know is how to work through it. And that's what I talk about. So just real quickly for those on the call right now, let me just give you a couple quick tips. One, realize that voice in your head, the voice that's telling you you're not capable, you're not confident, telling you that you don't know as much as people think you know, all those things that are basically tearing you down internally, just realize that voice is not real. It's not, because studies show that most people suffer from imposter syndrome at some point or another, which means it's in the air. It's not personal. So it's kind of like TV, looks real, sounds real, even feels real. It's not real. So when you start to hear it, remind yourself, okay, there's that voice. It is not real. Now, if that's not enough to stop it from coming, right, then realize you only feel it when people are offering you an opportunity, a new job, a chance to join a group, right, or maybe presenting or speaking, whatever it might be. Well, if they've offered it to you, if they've invited you into the room, then they believe that you have the capability to do it. So believe them, even if you can't believe in yourself. And last step is to fake it. Act like you know what you're doing until you do, because eventually you always figure it out. So those are some of the quick things, but read the book. There's a lot more in there. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and the one other thing, just develop confidence in a male-dominated workplace. Establish relationships. That's my number one advice. Establish relationships with people in the company. It's okay, they're guys. It doesn't matter. But it's the same thing. Establish relationships. And the reason you want to establish relationships is so that you can create allies. I've been in situations where, all right, I felt I wasn't being heard or not necessarily respected for what I was doing, etc. And I took help. Right? I take help from a relationship that I created and ask people to either support, I say, hey, I'm planning on recommending this. Do you think it's a good idea? And if they thought it was a good idea, I say, great. When I recommend it, can you just amplify it in the meeting? Right? There's things that you can do to take help by these peers and these relationships you create. Business is a team sport. You have to have relationships to be successful. Okay. Next one. Your goal was to become a CEO. How did you know it was the right goal for you? Honestly, I didn't know it was the right goal for me. I tell people all the time, just pick it. Just pick it. Because in all honesty, one of the challenges we have with our life and our career, there are too many choices. There's millions of jobs, literally millions. I bet you if you sat there and actually wrote down every single job title and responsibility that exists in the world, it would be millions. So is it no surprise that people are like, oh, I don't know which I want to do. There's too many choice. Absolutely. So pick one. I just picked being a CEO. Guidance counselor said to me, running a business is like running a club. I said, great. I like running clubs. I'll become a CEO. Did I know what that meant at the time? No, no clue what that actually meant, but it gave me a goal and something to strive for. And honestly, fortunately, yes, I did enjoy it and that all worked out well. But honestly, even if I didn't, it's okay, because if you pick a goal and you work toward it, you are building skills and you are moving forward. And if you get to a point where you say, you know what, this isn't really what I thought it would be, and I want to do something else, fine, you pivot. But guess what? You get to pivot off of a whole set of skills that you've now built. Versus if you spend a lot of time just trying to figure it out, you tend not to be building up, but building sideways, which isn't necessarily helpful. So pick something. And if you really don't know what you want to do, I tell people all the time, pick something in demand. Because if you don't know, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like college. The majority of the classes you take are classes you have to take to build, quote, the foundation, right? Well, treat your career the same way. If you don't know, quote, your major yet, then take foundational courses. Take foundational jobs that are in demand. They will build skills that other people, other companies want, and therefore it'll give you more opportunities and more options, even if you pivot and change. So for goals, honestly, do a little bit of work, figure out what might sound right, what might feel right, and then just pick it and move forward. And if you decide you don't like it, change it, but move forward. All right, second is I want to change jobs, but had no success in getting job interviews. Do you have advice for me? You know, this is a hard one. We're just in a tough period. I mean, I'm talking to people, I'm on the board of a nonprofit organization that works with students to graduate and then get jobs. And our students on average are doing 200 interviews and applications. 200, that's not 200 interviews, applications, and then some lead to interviews. 200 to get one job. So when you say you're just not getting any, unless you've done 200, I would tell you, you just haven't done enough. This is COVID, and it's much, much harder to actually break in. So right now it's quantity. You've got to keep pushing. The other thing is, this is where you also leverage help, leverage your network. I'm sure there are people that you know who actually manage people and who hire people. So show them your resume, get their feedback. Is this a resume they'd pick up or wouldn't pick up? Why or why not? Look at your letter that you send, right? As opening, get feedback. This is like anything else. You have to get feedback. Don't operate in a bubble. So talk to people. And that is the number one thing. Leverage your network. If you're just applying to jobs you see online and that's all you're doing, it's going to be hard to get an interview. You need to, yes, apply to jobs online and then figure out who in your network knows somebody at that company to see if you can at least have somebody actually look at your application, right? And your resume. And when you say, gosh, my network, I don't care how big or small your network is. Your network's always bigger than you think, because your network comprises your network. And then those people in your network, they have networks. So even if you don't know somebody that directly works for the company, start telling everybody you do know, I'm applying to a job at XYZ company. Do you know anybody at XYZ company? And that way you leverage their network. So it's a job. Finding a job is a job in and of itself. And you have to put a lot of effort. And right now, it's just sheer quantity. You've got to put in a ton of apps and get that network leveraged for you. Okay, next one. Could you share tips on how to adopt more mentors in one's career? Another topic I talk about in the book. I'm not big on asking people to be a mentor because I find most people just don't. So I believe you should not tell people you want them to be your mentor, but instead treat them like a mentor. Just start treating them like a mentor. And treating them means you ask them simple questions to begin with, questions that you can actually take the advice and use it. And the reason you want to be able to use it is that you can come back and tell people how it impacted you or what the result was, right? Or something, and start to build that relationship. Most people have more mentors than they realize. That's something I learned early in my career, because to be a mentor, it doesn't have to be a formal relationship. So there are probably people already in your network that might think of you a little bit as a mentee. So adopt them. And if you want step-by-steps, read the book. There's a lot in there. I think I'm sure I've also posted on this as well, so you can do some searches. And I know I've talked about it in some of the different events and things I've done. But that's the general twist. Don't ask, just start treating people like mentors. I love how you nailed your research about the experience of CEOs in sales prior to landing in the C-suite. Over the last couple of decades, has there been any change in this observation? I'll be candid. I haven't done the research. I did the research way back when it mattered, but right now I have not looked. So unfortunately, I can't tell you about the research right now on the C-suite. The good news is it's much easier to do today than it was to do in the 1980s when I was doing it and there was no internet. What's your recommendation for a specialization MBA? Depends upon what it is that you want to do. It's all about the goal. If you're trying to do something that's in the financial services space, that's the CFO arena, that's whatever, then your concentration should be in finance. If you're looking around more management, more marketing, right, then that's what it should be. So in all honesty, even when you're interviewing, people don't focus that much on what your concentration was once you get back into the job market, just whether or not you have the degree. And the problem solving and leadership, strategic planning towards goals, is strategy and leadership a good bet? In terms of skill sets, the answer is absolutely. Because every senior role, they're expecting that you're bringing strong leadership ability and the ability to develop and create strategy, not just execute strategy. All right, let me pause a minute because I see some points coming across on the chat. What are some of your favorite books? Oh my goodness. Okay, so favorite books. One is All You Have to Do Is Ask by Wayne Baker. It's basically an entire book on how to ask for what you want, no matter what the scenario or situation is. So highly recommend that one. Another one is $1 Trillion Coach, which is about Bill Campbell and his team leadership model, which Bill happened to have been a mentor of mine, and I think is terrific. What's another one? Another one is Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. And you might say, is that really a business book? And the answer is no, it's not a business book. But what he talks about is the importance of not making assumptions about people and how that really creates a lot of confusion that happens in the world and frankly, lots of problems. Well, if you think about it in business, that's a really good lesson too. So anyway, those are a couple. Let's see, next question. Most important skills to have right now in order to level up. I would tell you right now, what used to be called the soft skills are more important than ever. The ability to communicate, the ability to empathize, the ability to actually lead a team and inspire, the ability to communicate effectively, especially in far-flung, ways. Also, just the ability to be analytical. Critical thinking is always, always important. And leadership in and of itself is also important, especially when you're going through challenging times. So those are some I definitely put out there right away. Okay, let me go back to my list here. Let's see. How can I build the path to become an advisor for companies? As meaning on the board of directors. We talked about this a little bit. If I'm not a millionaire, well, I'll tell you what, they don't ask board members when you come in what your bank account is. So being a millionaire has nothing to do with being on board. This person says, I run a nonprofit focused on gender equality in the workplace. I understand change has to start from the top, which is why I'd like to be a person at the top. Well, I can understand that. I would tell you the conversation that we just had earlier about the other person who's interested in serving on a board. Just remember, serving on a board is like competing for a job. And the best way to do it is to do the research to say, okay, what are boards looking for these days? And look at people that have your background that serve on boards and understand what do they do to be able to get there. So, typically a nonprofit, people have served on nonprofits, running nonprofits. To serve on a public board, the nonprofit needs to be at scale. And why is scale important? Well, if you haven't had the experience of actually managing, thousands of employees, then it's pretty hard to sit at the table with the CEO and give advice, right, that is relevant. So it's all about your ability to help with relevant advice, with experiences that can help to move forward and improve, all of those things. So build a plan for yourself. Do the research, Figure out who serves on boards that comes from backgrounds like yours. What else have they done? What are the skills that they've shown, etc. And then build a plan out. That's the best way to improve your odds. Okay. What are the 3 most important factors to consider when looking for a new job? Number 1 is, where are you heading? What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? And does the job that you're looking at position you on that path? So that's number 1. Number 2, do the people and the company match with your overall sets of values and what you think is important? You're going to spend a whole lot of time there. You don't want to be in a place that you feel is actually at odds with who you are. And 3, I look for companies in which I feel confident that I will be able to learn and grow, which means I don't look at just the job that I'm interviewing for. I look at what could that job lead to. So be strategic in how you think about it. All right. I'm 32 years old with 9 years experience in the energy industry, European IOC. I've worked in the US and Europe, and for the first 5 years had a steep progression. I worked in trading, strategy, and now as business development management and corporate M&A. Yet the last 3 years, despite massive over-delivery of really complex projects, I'm stagnating and don't get the support and development I used to. What would be your advice? Leaving the industry without doing an MBA is almost impossible, which is one of the options. Energy professionals seem to be increasingly undesirable, blah, blah. Okay. So on this one, same thing. Go back to the point I said before. Have the conversation. Talk to your boss, in which you create an environment where people want to help you. All right. So you walk in and you say, I just wanted to talk about my overall performance. Think about your performance, right? Or talk about your aspirations. You can put it in either context and just say, for the first 5-6 years that I was here, I really feel that I learned a lot. I got a good support, et cetera, et cetera. Over the last 3 years, I have done X, Y, and Z. You share all that over deliverance that you talked about. But at the same point, I don't feel I'm growing as fast. And I would really like to get more support, right? And development opportunities. So what do you think I need to do? Put it on you, not on them. Ask what you're doing by putting it on you. What do I need to do? Is you're asking them for help. People much prefer to be asked for help than to be told, right? To go do something. So put it on you. What do I need to do? And then listen hard. Listen at the kinds of things that they say. And then come back and qualify where you need to, et cetera. But you'll get a sense through that conversation whether or not they see you as someone that they want to continue and they want to support, right, and take forward, or someone that they're just patronizing. You'll be able to tell that in the conversation. But have the conversation. And let me just, for everybody on the call, it is so much better to have the tough conversations earlier than make assumptions and act without information. It's just like any other business decision. You wouldn't make major business decisions without the necessary information. So don't make career decisions without the information. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. If you need to, practice the conversation with a friend or a colleague or someone, a mentor, right? A cheerleader, I call them. But practice if you need to practice. But it's important to learn how to have the hard conversations in a positive, productive way, because you'll need to have them throughout your career. Trust me, if you read the book, you'll see things don't always go as planned. And you have to figure out how to make changes, how to pivot, etc. None of it's easy. By the way, life is hard. In case people don't tell you, life is hard. You're hearing it from me. So just because it gets hard, it gets challenging, don't stop. Don't stop pushing. Don't lessen your aspirations. Keep going. Just get more help in doing it, because it's hard for everybody. They just don't tell you and they try to act like it's not. All right. Next one. Are there any CEO mentoring, coaching, support groups that you would recommend to a new CEO like me? Sure. There is YPO, Young Presidents Organization. There's, see, looks like a woman's name. WPO, the Women's President Organization. These are groups that are small groups that are designed to kind of peer mentor. They usually have facilitators. And they are indeed totally focused on trying to helping CEOs, people who are running companies, to be successful and to grow. So I would definitely suggest one of those two. There's other organizations out there as well. So it's not hard to do some research, but those are the two that I'm most familiar with. All right, looks like something in the chat. Who are some of your mentors and or biggest influences? So the late Bill Campbell was one of my biggest mentors later in my career. Earlier in my career, a gentleman by the name of Roland Harris, I learned a ton from. The other is Ken Thornton, also at IBM. I had Robin Sternberg. I had, people who were mentors and then became friends, Barbara Ellis. So I've had a lot of them. So what I'll tell you is I learned early that you can have as many mentors as you can support. And when I say support, meaning being a good mentee is critical to having a lot of mentors. And most people are terrible mentees. I'm telling you, I've been on the other side of the table. A lot of people come, they ask for advice, you never hear from them again. Or only when they have the next question. You don't know whether you're being helpful, you don't know what they're doing, right? They don't communicate. They don't set agendas, they don't schedule time, right? They don't do any of those things. A good mentee takes responsibility for the mentee-mentor relationship, whether it's informal or formal. And you do that by ensuring that, okay, if you ask for advice, well, you're taking. So you need to make sure you figure out how to give back in return. How do you give back to a mentor when they, quote, are farther ahead of you in your career? What can you possibly do for them? Well, giving back to them is letting them know, are they being impactful? How are they impacting you? That actually makes them feel good. That is value. You can ask them periodically, hey, is there anything I can do for you? You'd be surprised, you never know. So it's about creating a relationship. Again, informal, formal, doesn't matter. It's still a relationship. Okay. Next one. I do not always agree on the way some higher-ups deal with certain circumstances, and it makes me wonder whether that's the way it should be, and I might not have what it takes to be in those roles. In your previous experience, how did you identify traits in leaders that were worth replicating and the ones that were not? Actually, it was pretty easy. When I saw people who acted in ways that was consistent with my personal values and style, right, then great, those are what I admired. When I saw people acting in ways that went against that, I discarded those. It's so important to be authentic. So you have to be true to who you are. And when you watch people, take what you think works and work for you and discard the rest. The good news is there isn't one leadership style that is successful. There are, I won't say millions, but let's say tens of thousands of leadership styles that can be effective because everybody is different. So figure out what works for you. Watch others, take what will fit, and discard what doesn't. That's quite all right. Okay, and that's the last question. So I'll give one chance for chat. Any other questions in the chat before we bring this to a conclusion? All right, I'm not seeing anything. So let me say thank you very much for tuning in to my Ask Me Anything. I do this once a month. Just register on YouTube and you'll get the notification that it's coming. I hope this was valuable and you took something from it that was helpful. And if it was, feel free, by the way, to post about it or tag me or both. I am trying to create awareness, obviously, for the book and things like that during COVID, which is really challenging. So appreciate any help and support that you have. And have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.